This podcast is brought to you by Stevie Wicks.
Welcome back to the AI Analysis Podcast. Today we're looking at another episode of the Down the Middle podcast. This time, the guys have an interesting theory.
Oh, yeah. What's the theory this time?
Well, we've listened through their latest conversation, trying to get their take on, current wrestling stuff, trends, and specifically what might be going on behind the scenes with WWE creative, under Triple H.
Right. Okay, so what's so intriguing is their main idea, their sort of hypothesis.
Yeah.
The hosts of Down the Middle, they've noticed, well, quite a few things that line up. Striking similarities, really.
Between what they talk about on their show.
Exactly. Between their suggestions, their discussions, and then, boom. Stuff happens in WWE that looks pretty similar. They're actually starting to wonder if maybe Triple H is listening to their show.
Okay, wow. So let's unpack that a bit. What's making them think this? What kind of topics are we talking about?
It's a range, really.
Yeah.
How WWE is using certain wrestlers, possibilities for promotions working together.
Interpromotional stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And just the general, direction the company's heading in. It's in these areas they're seeing these coincidences, maybe.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, so a big one they brought up is Penta, how he's been booked.
Penta el Zero Miedo.
That's the one. One of the Down the Middle hosts, he was very specific.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to see Penta in matches that really show off his style, but against guys who aren't luchadors. Mix it up, showcase his power, his intensity against like a brawler or a technician.
Right, put him in a different environment. And
well, he can't really ignore it. WWE has been booking Penta in those kinds of matches lately.
Ah, okay.
The host even mentioned a specific dream match idea, Penta versus Gunther.
Wow, okay, yeah. That's a clash of styles, right? That does make you think, doesn't it? About how decisions get made.
It definitely does. How do ideas flow in wrestling? Is it just logical booking choices that happen to line up?
Or could someone actually be listening to these fan discussions, these podcasts?
It's possible. The Down the Middle guys seem to feel there's a connection. One host even said he's enjoying Raw more lately, and Penta's matches are a big reason why.
Interesting. What else did they cover?
They also got into streaming. Just how much more accessible wrestling is now.
Yeah, that's definitely changed.
They ran down where you can watch stuff, SmackDown on Peacock, NXT on the CW app now, AEW over on Max.
Right. You almost don't need cable for wrestling anymore, which is wild.
Totally. And strategically, it lets the promotions hit different audiences, doesn't it?
Yeah, WWE gets the Peacock crowd. AEW is part of that whole Warner Bros. Discovery thing on Max. But it makes sense.
But, okay, this next point is where their theory really seems to, get some legs.
Go on.
They started talking about promotions working together again, specifically WWE and TNA.
Okay. Yeah, we've seen bits of that.
Right, but the Down the Middle host pointed out he'd actually suggested a WWE-TNA link-up multiple times on their show in the past.
Ah, okay. So he feels like he called it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And look, we have seen more crossovers lately.
Yeah.
They mentioned Mickie James.
Oh, yeah, the 2022 Rumble, when she
Sure.
was the TNA Knockouts champion.
Exactly. Came out with a belt and everything. That wasn't something you saw often before.
No, definitely not. And it hasn't stopped there, has it?
Nope. We've seen NXT wrestlers pop up on TNA TV and TNA guys like Moose showing up in WWE.
Right, during the NXT stuff.
Yeah. The Down the Middle hosts think it's good for everyone. It creates that buzz, those forbidden door moments people love.
Like the old ECW days or what New Japan's been doing.
Precisely. They brought up old examples like Kane or DX showing up on ECW.
Yeah.
And newer stuff like Kenta or even Cody Rhodes working across different companies before his WWE return. It's that surprise, that what-if factor.
It definitely gets people talking.
For sure.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
Welcome back. So we were talking about these crossovers and the changing wrestling world.
Right, and the down the middle guy's theory about maybe being heard.
Yeah. And another thing they discussed was the return of Evolve, the wrestling promotion.
Evolve. Didn't they used to have a connection with the WWE? Like a pipeline?
They did, yeah. It served as sort of a feeder system, a developmental spot for a while.
Okay. So what's the speculation now that it's back?
Well, they were wondering what its role might be this time. Could it be like a new NXT,
Yeah.
a ground-level place to train talent.
Especially because NXT itself has changed so much, right?
Exactly. That was their point.
Mm-hmm.
NXT now feels less like pure development and more like, well, a third brand. It's on TV. It has established stars.
It's not quite the same as it was 5-10 years ago.
Not at all. So maybe Evolve fills that gap again, that initial step for really new talent.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does this tie back to the Triple H's watching idea?
Ah, okay. Well, this is where it gets really specific for them. One of the hosts laid out a whole potential storyline.
For who?
For Penta. And his brother, Phoenix. Phoenix.
The Lucha Brothers. Okay, what was the scenario?
It was pretty detailed. He imagined Penta needing a tag team partner.
Right.
And maybe WWE teases it'll be someone like Pete Dunne or maybe Chad Gable.
Building anticipation.
Exactly. But then the big reveal, the swerve, is that his partner is actually his brother, Phoenix.
Reforming the Lucha Brothers in WWE? Okay, fans would probably like that.
Totally. But they didn't stop there. The host even pictured a future storyline down the road where the brothers end up feuding.
Brother versus brother.
Yeah, drawing a comparison to, like, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's big rivalry.
Wow, that's very specific booking.
It is. And while they said they liked the Lucha Bros as singles and as a team, maybe leaning slightly towards wanting to see them do their own thing.
The fact that they laid out such a detailed, plausible storyline that could happen
really adds fuel to their fire.
Right.
It taps into that fan desire for complex, long-term stories.
I can see why they'd feel a connection if something like that actually played out. Okay, what else was on their radar?
Shifting gears a bit, they talked about those new WWE Indie Championships.
Oh yeah, the men's and women's ones. The ones that won't be defended on WWE TV.
That's them. They'll be defended on independent shows.
What was the take on that?
Very positive, actually. The down-the-middle guys saw it as a big win for the indie scene.
Yeah, so?
Well, having a WWE-backed title defended at your indie show, that adds visibility, maybe some prestige.
Right, could draw more eyes.
One host called it maybe like an audition system for WWE in a way. Plus, it injects that WWE legitimacy, which could help ticket sales, talent wanting to be there.
And they thought WWE might even film some of those matches.
Yeah, maybe put them on YouTube or Peacock or something. More exposure for the indies, for the wrestlers.
Which connects back to something you mentioned earlier, and one of the hosts has been saying for ages that WWE should work more with the independents.
Exactly. So this feels like a step in that direction. Strategically, it's maybe a shift in how WWE scouts talent, acknowledging how much good stuff is out there on the indies.
Creates a healthier scene overall, maybe?
Yeah, that seems to be the hope.
Did they mention any other predictions or wish list items that came true?
They did, actually. They remember talking in the past about wanting Moose involved with WWE somehow.
And he showed up in NXT.
Right. And also Santino Marella.
Santino, what about him?
Well, he's now an authority figure in TNA, right? But he actually appeared in some WWE segments recently connected to the TNA crossover stuff.
Huh, okay. So more little connections.
Yeah. And they also mentioned wanting to see Nick Nemeth back at WWE.
Dolph Ziggler.
Right. But under his real name, Nick Nemeth, that was on their wish list too.
So you can see why they're building this narrative in their heads, all these little things lining up after they talk about them.
It definitely seems like more than just random chance to them.
Okay, switching lanes again. Did they talk about anything else? Like outside of booking and crossovers?
Yeah, they got on to music for a bit. Wrestling entrance themes.
Always a fun topic. What was the vibe?
Kind of a feeling that maybe current themes aren't always as memorable or iconic as some of the older ones.
I can see that argument. Some classics are hard to beat.
For sure. And they talked about how important the music is, right?
Right.
It defines the wrestler, connects with the crowd.
Yeah.
The hosts were remembering times when a wrestler's theme actually got them into a band they didn't know.
Definitely happened to me. Like Randy Orton and Rev Theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They mentioned that one. And CM Punk with Living Color.
Cult of Personality.
Yeah.
Classic.
And Rhea Ripley's themes, like Motionless in White or New Year's Day early on.
Right. Introduce those bands to a whole new audience.
Totally. They even told the story about Triple H getting Motorhead for his theme.
A game. Iconic.
And remembered that WWE actually used to have its own record label way back when.
Wow, I forgot about that. Yeah, music used to feel really integrated.
It did. They also mentioned how some wrestlers who've been around forever, like Rey Mysterio with POD, still have those grandfathered in themes.
And Cody Rhodes is kind of an exception, using his own theme, right? Downstate.
Kingdom.
Yeah.
That's his song. Not really a WWE creation. and they shared a fun fact, too.
Oh, yeah.
Christian Cage's theme. In TNA and AEW, it's apparently an instrumental version of an Evanescence song, My Last Breath.
No way. Really? Huh. That's a deep cut. Shows you the thought that goes into some of this stuff.
Right, adapting existing music like that. It's clever.
Did they get totally off track talking about music?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Started talking about rock music today, their own tastes. Metal like Slayer, but also pop ballads, Dolly Parton, Robbie Williams.
Uh-huh. Quite the mix.
Yeah, and nostalgia for older rock bands like Linkin Park, Korn, Disturbed.
Hey, that's just being a fan, right? Their own tastes color their view.
Exactly. It just reminds you they're fans first, commentators second, and that shapes their perspective.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Putting it all together, these down-the-middle guys have laid out, well, a pretty interesting case, even if it's speculative.
Yeah, this idea that Triple H might actually be listening. They've got their examples, Penta's booking, the TNA stuff, the indie titles, specific storyline ideas.
Things they discuss that later seem to happen in WWE.
Right. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about how feedback works in wrestling. Do podcasts, fan chatter actually influence the big decisions?
The down-the-middle hosts clearly think they might be part of that conversation, maybe even nudging things slightly.
And for you listening, you probably had some aha moments there, seeing those potential links they noticed between their show and WWE, and also just how interconnected things are becoming between different companies.
Yeah, that TNA WWE stuff, the indie titles, it feels different.
Definitely. Which leads to a final thought, really. This idea of connections, of maybe unexpected influences. What else could be shaping wrestling's future that we don't see? Think about that, the fans' passion, the analysis from people watching closely, and then the choices made by the people in charge. What other surprising collaborations or hidden forces might be out there pushing things in new directions?
How's it going, everybody? It's Jake from the Down the Middle podcast, and I'm going to take a quick moment to invite you to check out our show, which airs every other Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on YouTube. If you love pro wrestling, you're definitely going to want to check this out. We talk about the latest in pro wrestling.
AEW's pay-per-views are rough, man, and it's obvious, like, Tony Khan is booking for Tony Khan, and it's obvious because Tony Khan has clinical freaking ADHD, but the kind where, like, you can hyper-focus on the thing you love. He's like, I legitimately want to watch wrestling for 7 hours. It's like, Tony.
Not everybody else does.
Hardly anybody else does.
We talk about some of our favorite things in pro wrestling.
One of the best promos ever. Like, can we just say, like, I had fucking goosebumps. And here's the thing, I know it's a work, but I'm watching that and I'm like, I think MJF might have duped somebody.
And we have a hot take here and there, too.
Nothing against Riho. It's just like, do you think the audience is fucking stupid? Riho weighs 98 pounds.
The vast majority of great moments in professional wrestling have nothing to do with the move. Don't get me wrong, the moves are part of it. Cena's like, I don't even remember how I won. Everybody remembers this.
But the best part about our show is that you are part of the conversation. So check out the show and join in the fun.